What are some of the worst parenting mistakes your well-meaning parents made while raising you? Serious. They were pushing me to be perfect. By perfection they meant the girl that never raises her voice, always does as she is told to, is everyone's pushover, has the best grades at school but never gets higher education or a job and goes straight to becoming a stay-at-home mom, is smart but not feminist, doesn't wear makeup, doesn't go out with friends. Only women that don't care about their family do these. Spends all her life with her family as close as possible. Has social skills but only limited to relatives. Ugh. Same. Except that they didn't want me to ever date or marry because they felt threatened by relationships with anyone outside the family. I did not conform to the above, and boy, were they unhappy. They still try to push me into that role. Getting mad at me for saying bad words. Getting mad at me for swearing I can understand, but my dad once flipped out on me because he thought I said dong. I said pianist. But even if I had said dong, getting angry with a child for using the correct anatomical term for the male reproductive organ is freaking ridiculous. Raising me to be homophobic. Turned that around real quick. Good for you. Holy frick was I sheltered. I was super sheltered to the point where when I got to the real world, I had no idea what to do. Heck, I'm 28 and still don't know anything. I never got to hang with friends, thus affecting my social skills. My mom would constantly degrade me if I couldn't figure out a problem even she couldn't do. For example, one of her favorite insults was "Come on Chad, we're not Ray, inventing the wheel," and yes, I am a Chad, I might as well say. Everything that we would do always had to revolve around what my mom liked. It makes me feel like my hobbies are crap and aren't worth the light of day. She constantly interrupts me when speaking just to talk to someone else, which makes my words feel like they're worthless, like something that holds no value. It's made me feel empty, and to be honest, I hate talking about my feelings because I feel like I don't know how to describe them without sounding like an emo 16-year-old. Sometimes it's okay to be an emo 16-year-old, especially if your parent has held back or damaged your development. If you can, then you should get a therapist. It will help. On my 4-year birthday, my parents decided to baptize my brother. They had a big party with everyone from my family and stuff, and no one wished me a happy birthday. I know they didn't think about it at all, but it's something I remember very clearly. I cried myself to sleep that night. The clean plate rule and super strict diet. Now finish everything on my plate with compulsive relentlessness and have a really hard time moderating snacks. A neighbor once felt so sorry for me that she gave me a small bag of chips for my birthday. I hid under my bed and ate them. This does not lead to a healthy relationship with food. My dad used to get hit as a kid. He grew up and figured that's how you discipline kids. He had this brown broken extension cord he'd use. That thing hurt like heck on bare skin. I'm a parent of 3. I never hit them. Oh, they push you the limit where you understand it. But I just never could bring myself to do it. Never explaining their decisions and reasoning. I'm the mom. That's why. Never apologizing when they made mistakes. Showing love with material things. Teaching me to be so polite that I couldn't say no to anything or stand up for myself. Forcing me to gain weight and shaming my thin body because it looked like I wasn't raised properly. Same. My mom would shame me for having a super thin body when I was 9, but when I told her that she seemed rude, she would play it off, saying I was taking things too seriously. Now I am overweight and the nagging is not gone, except I'm cute and chubby on her good days and fat and obese on her bad days. Being too strict and not letting me make my own decisions as a teenager. My best friend has these parents. He's an adult now and still has to get permission to leave the house. It's about 50/50 if he gets it. By answering some of their bullcrap logic with "you'll find out one day." Well, I'm 38 and still waiting to find out. Being the first, I got a lot of floggings over stupid crap. My brother and sister got away with just about everything. I set the bar pretty high. Telling me I was a good writer. Then when I asked her to read things I wrote, being told that has plot holes big enough to sail an aircraft carrier through. No further detail, no help, no identification of what exactly the hole was. 5th grade writing contest. I had been writing ongoing stories in a world I had created. Was gonna write up a new bit or recycle an old one in that world. Mom decided she'd write her own story in my world with my characters and make me turn that in. I didn't make it past the first round. Gave her a story I wrote later on for her to look over. She gave it back, having rewritten it. All my complex sentences were reduced to subject verb object. The flow was gone. The tone was gone. Just choppy words left. I hate everything I write now, but everybody tells me to keep doing it because I'm good at it. As a teacher, this is horrible to read. I love children's stories. They are ridiculous, often makes insane logic jumps and have parts of absolute brilliance. This is because children don't care about judgment and simply want to express themselves in a healthy and stimulating environment, that is. Telling me their issues with each other and blatantly just talking crap about one another. Divorced. When I was 15, the company my dad had been with since the early 1980s was in a tailspin. Over the next few years, financial problems started affecting their relationship, which culminated in divorce in 2007. I was 21 and nothing damaged my relationship with them more than hearing about their other one's action statements against the other. Answering all problems with money. Sometimes a kid just needs to be upset and have a parent listen and empathize instead of approaching feeling negative emotions like a problem that needs to be fixed. My brother and I were never allowed to be upset or angry or sad without being just hounded to death about needing to just let things go and think positively. Let things go and think positively is not treating it as a problem that needs to be fixed. It's treating it as a problem that needs to be ignored. Making my sister and I clear our plates at every meal. This would have been fine if they served us child-sized portions of food, but almost every time we would be served the same amount as the adults. We both now feel very guilty about wasting food, not clearing our plates, and we've both struggled with being overweight for our entire lives. My mom used to make me make phone calls under the guise of teaching me how to talk on the phone. But she was having me call adults as a young teen about business stuff, like the electric company for example, and not giving me the information I would need to complete the task, like the account number or whatever. So I'm absolutely sure I was just annoying people who were trying to do their jobs, and my phone anxiety as an adult is almost crippling. I just have social anxiety in general, much more comfortable texting than phone or in-person chatting. Physically forcing me to eat soap. Constantly upping the bar. If I made B's, then A's became the minimum. I watched my siblings once. Oh, then I got to watch them every week. Nothing was ever good enough. I work out. Oh well, you're doing it wrong. I hated running. I try to pray and be active in my faith. I'm too into it. Really wasn't. They just didn't like anything that told them no. All of this was to supposedly push me to achieve more and be stronger, and instead I just gave up on trying, because what's the point if getting B's, which was really hard with my ADD, wasn't good enough? Why bother trying for A's? They are very closed-minded about certain topics. Suicide, mental health in teenagers, LGBTQ+ stuff etc. They are otherwise awesome parents, but it makes it difficult to talk about certain things like my personal issues. My younger brother is bicurious. The only adult that knows is me, because my sisters would blab about it or be against it, and we don't know my parents' reaction, especially since bro is kinda young. Props to you, being that one person he's comfortable talking to. It's even worse having no one. Kudos, and good luck to him. Overprotecting me. I had cancer twice before I was 5 years old, and so my parents really shielded my life. A kid's birthday party? My mum would be there too. Playing out until late? Nope, not allowed. Even when I was older, there was no going to nightclubs. I had to be in by 10 PM and had to argue my way to let my boyfriend, now husband, stay the night. As a result, I'm rubbish at socializing. Struggle to make my own decisions, as someone was always there with an answer for me and didn't know anything about running a house, as it was all done for me, not my choice. When I came to move in with my boyfriend, they were all, "Do you not like us anymore? What have we done to deserve this?" My guy had to show me everything. Washing machines, bills, cooking. Everything I know is because of him. They continued to message, email and phone several times a day until I asked for space and to be allowed to live my life. We have a better relationship now, and I have my own little girl, so do understand to some extent. But I know I'd want her to be supported and loved hard, but allowed to scrape her knees and be included in everything. My job as a parent is to make her feel confident about herself and teach her everything I know to help her become a well-rounded and independent individual. Making fun of my looks in a teasing way whilst talking about how beautiful my siblings are. IT sucks. I was the only girl and every part of my body was broken down and made fun of constantly. The fact that I grew hips was hilarious. The fact that my boobs were so small, etc. My brothers were just told they were handsome and heartbreakers. I still struggle with self-image. I was one of those model gorgeous kids and my parents basically made my worth about my looks. I now have an eating disorder and really low self-esteem because I was taught my accomplishments didn't matter as long as I looked pretty. I, to my knowledge, don't know you or what you look like. I would just like to remind you of the words of Mr. Rogers. Remember, you've made today special, just by being you. Reddit hugs, prayers and best wishes. From what I gather, since she's never been straight about it, my mother had some bad encounters with men when she was young in settings where she was supposed to have been safe. As a result, she drummed it into our heads that basically no man could be trusted except our father and that all males were potential debauchers. That's been fun. I had no male friends growing up and time spent at friends' houses who had brothers was strictly limited. To this day, I can't really relax around men and am actively trying to train myself to trust, like be friends with men and not constantly think but he might violate me with literally every man. How I got married is a miracle I have yet to explain given these feelings I had. By only applying tough love, which by my mother's definition, belittling my siblings and I thinking if she told us we were worthless and couldn't amount to crap, that we would suddenly have a fire within and work hard to prove her wrong. She just thought because that's how she's motivated, because she's a very competitive person, that we would take it the same too. This applies to more than just academic or career type criticizing. She also applied it to personal things like our appearances. Now all three of us just struggle with depression and anxiety and I have a hard time accepting any praise and have to learn to even be affectionate because my mother never showed or really gave any in my life. My mom had a completely bonkers outlook on relationships. It's definitely because of her deeply abusive childhood, but the outcome was nuts. She kept warning me and my sister, when we had relationships in our teens 20s, that we were changing and that we had lost our sense of self. She insisted on being in the room and writing down talking points if I was on the phone with a boyfriend. Queefing, according to her, only ever happened if you had violently rough freaking sessions. So if you queef, you know you're in an abusive relationship. She showed me how to lick my hand and use my spit as lube for a better handy when I was a young teen. Yet she also thought that thongs were completely unacceptable and whorish. But she bought me one with the idea that I was only allowed to wear it at home while doing something like reading. We were never allowed any privacy ever. Open bathrooms, we all slept together on the kitchen floor. Any insistence that I needed privacy was responded to by teasing me that I was going to go masturbate. Oh, speaking of, she told me that it's sad when married women use celebs because that means they are sad and lonely. She once found her older sister's celeb and just pitted her. Also, if you use a celeb you will stop being able to orgasm without one. How do you know that, mom? The plot thickens. She told me only wear clothing more than once before laundering them. There were, sadly, a lot more tidbits like this, but I don't want to get obnoxious. My parents ignoring my eating disorder for a long time when I was young. I found out years later that they did know about it, but were unsure of what to do and embarrassed to bring it up. I just assumed they had no idea. I was pretty young and very sick and definitely needed some intervention. I think they wanted to help but avoided it because it was a confusing subject. This and cutting. My mom sent me to a counselor for cutting when I was about 15, but I needed deeper help than that. 4 years later my mom noticed me losing weight and insisted she weigh me every day to make sure I wasn't losing weight. I would just put crap in my pockets to make it look like I weighed more. None of it was done with malicious intent. I just don't think she knew what to do. Not everyone is going to agree with this, but spanking me, I'd get spanked with just about anything aside from a belt, and if I was crying, from being spanked to the point of nearly forming welts, my father would ask me if I needed a reason to cry. Like, what the frick? I'm crying because you nearly beat my bottom raw. Moving around the country, they thought it would be fun and we'd see different places. Instead it made it difficult for me to make any friends cause I knew I'd be moving soon anyway. In my mid-30s now, still struggle to make friends and have this weird feeling like I don't have a hometown or belong anywhere. Leaving me with just anyone so they could go party? I don't think your parents were well-meaning parents then. Mostly being around a lot of drugs and alcohol and so many other things you find in Vegas. My mom apparently believed that if you refuse to talk about it, it doesn't exist. Wrong. I was physically shamed by my pediatric dentist, who was very publicly arrested and charged with physically shaming his patients. Sheltering me and not allowing me to go out as a teenager. I was confident in my ability to be responsible, but my mom was insistent that I wasn't ready and that she was protecting me from the real world. I feel like I missed out on a lot and went into college woefully unprepared from a social standpoint. I had a hard time making friends and was afraid to try new things. My parents always taught me and my siblings that we were better than that. Essentially that we were better than other people. It took me years to undo the sense of superiority and lack of empathy for others that this created. One of my siblings still acts this way and I believe it to be hugely detrimental in their interactions with other people. I realized over time that there's a big and positive difference between rising above through behavior, thinking and actions than experiencing yourself as being better than others. My parents had good intentions and are good people, but it was definitely a parenting oversight. Making you think showing a little bit of belly skin makes you S. Not complimenting you in any ways. Not taking interest in your child's interest. Not acknowledging your child's basic freedom to decision. Yeah, pretty sure I've been wearing clothes too big for me my entire life because of my mom's skewed definition of modesty. She's mellowing out though and I get to chuckle every time she wears her yoga pants. Just to say, my parents are definitely well-meaning and have done more for me than anyone in my life. However, they sure aren't perfect and a couple things I won't repeat with my possible future children are, when I was 12 or so my mom found some pee I had looked up, and the way she reacted had led me to believe I was one of the nastiest people in the world for a while, and she still brings it up 14 years later calling it the sick stuff. Then my dad mainly just won't ever let a darn thing go. I continue to hear about the little things that have irked him over the years like over and over. I don't even remember half the stuff he's still mad about from years ago. Like moving out at 18 or stealing something of his, which he steals stuff from me. So seems fair to me, but IDK. Mainly just saying these things as a reference for the changes in parenting methods I plan to have. I honestly think they are ignorant of the way these things affect me, and when I try to bring it up to them, they get defensive. So I've basically given up on attempting to talk it out. It is what it is, I suppose. I was teaching my 5-year-old how to do a shoulder roll. Halfway through the roll my nearly 2-year-old came running over. I heel kicked the little guy into next week. My foot was hurting for a good hour. Thankfully he took it like a champ and only suffered from a black eye. I've never felt so much guilt. He cried for a good 5 minutes and then we shared a banana. Still waiting to see the long-term side effects. Making us eat healthy all the time. We never ate out. Every meal was at the table. Even if we were out we would have to wait to go home to eat. Or lunch would be packed. No junk food, sweets or snacks. Ever. If you make food forbidden you want them more, and will lead to a fricked up relationship with food later down the line. My parents weren't quite this strict, but having something like McDonald's was very much an occasional treat, or done as a last resort if we were traveling somewhere. Now, as an adult, whenever I treat myself to something like that I feel horrendously guilty, even though I try to eat healthily the rest of the time. Ignoring the red flags and not getting my diagnosis when I was a little kid. This one hits me close to home. So many things in my life would be different if my parents just made sure I had the help I needed. Every dollar I made at my job was fun money. I appreciate that my parents paid for all of my necessities, but spending every dollar you get on fun stuff is a very hard habit to break. My parents were and are amazing. I'm not complaining. I'm just still learning as an adult. Now that I'm in college and realize I need to actually save some money, even though they still pay for a lot, I've just defaulted to spend basically nothing because I realize I have no clue how to budget, which is not great either. Came out to my mom at the age of 17. She was the first person I ever told, and I confided in her not with the intent of telling anyone else, but because I needed to tell someone. She has a gay brother and had never spoken poorly of him, of gay people, or anything like that, so I assumed it would be okay to tell her. In hindsight, she meant well and was trying to protect me from a hateful world, but in the moment, telling me, "Don't tell any of your friends because they will all hate you for it," was not a great course of action. It made me immediately associate shame with my physical orientation. It broke my trust with her and made me feel even more alone than I did before, despite having told someone my biggest secret. I can't blame this instance for the depression and anxiety I struggle with today, but I would consider this one of the events that lit the spark. They wanted to encourage us to do what we enjoyed, but by doing that it put the rest of us down. My older sister could draw really well. It was a thing. So they told me I couldn't draw as well as her. My younger sister couldn't draw or do art because it was my older sister's thing. So they told her she was amazing at dancing and cooking. That meant when I made food they told me it wasn't as good as hers, and when I danced I wasn't as good as her. Me? I was amazing at sports and helping around the house. So my siblings all couldn't be. That meant I did all the housework by myself. My little brother? Oh, he was so intellectually inclined, so we all couldn't be. In the end it just fricked all of us up. I was called stupid constantly because my brother was the smart one. I am the only child so far to pass high school because I was the only one that could get over being called stupid and dumb compared to my brother on a regular basis. I got into the top 8% in my state for 3 of my subjects. My smart little brother? He is dropping out of primary school. My siblings are all unfit because I am the sporty one and they were never encouraged to do sport. My little sister doesn't draw even though she enjoys it, because our older sister is just the best at drawing. My little sister is now an apprentice chef, but she's the only one who knows how to cook because we were all told it was her thing so we couldn't. My mother taught me but always told me I was bad, and now it gives me anxiety to let people eat food I make because I worry it's crap. I am scared to dance because I was always told I was awful at it and my youngest sister was the best. We all compare ourselves to each other in such a negative way because my parents wanted us to feel special and unique, but really it fricked us all up and made us feel inadequate in many aspects of our lives. Not making me do chores and homework. Now I am 19 and trying to learn all. My work ethic is awful and I can't stop procrastinating. They neglected me overall, but this was more of a so you don't have to bore yourself with this unnecessary stuff. Oddly, I was told to do chores and homework and my work ethic is still crap. I am currently trying to work on it now, and I think I've come a long way, but initially I think it was because they pushed me too hard and all I wanted to do was have fun. So, I got really lazy after turning 18 and didn't really do much of anything. I found myself briefly couch surfing because of that. My dad didn't respect me. It made me go through life looking for validation where I shouldn't have, looking up to the wrong kind of friends, seeking approval when I didn't need to, lack of confidence, wanting everyone to be my friend. Luckily I got past those issues. I still want everyone to be my friend, but the difference is I don't care if they aren't. But I'm pretty nice and friendly with everyone. Now I seek only the best friendships with the best people. Beating me with a belt hanger for bad grades. Yeah, that helped. Haven't laid a hand on my kids and they're killing it. My parents taught me how to not parent like them. You have been visited by the Source Chihuahua. You will be blessed with good pasta, but only if you comment simmer well. Papa simmer well, Papa. Like and subscribe, you magnificent person.